Hello everyone, this is Chantel and today we are going to harvest everything. Well, not everything, but almost everything. So come along with me and let's go. This is harvest season for us. It's also our second, third planting season. So I'm going to be harvesting everything today, and tomorrow I'll probably come over here and plant if the weather allows and if my time allows. We have onion that needs to be harvested, tomatoes, cucumbers, beans, Armenian cucumbers, basil, eggplant, peppers, and a whole lot of stuff. Some stuff I'm going to leave for another day because I can't do everything in one day, and some stuff have to be processed right away, so those I'll just leave them for another day. But the stuff that can be processed super easily and the stuff that can sit a little and wait for me to process them, I'll be harvesting today. You can see behind me, this is the butternut squash. It's doing absolutely amazing. It's full of butternut squash. They're full of butternut squash because I have several planted right next to each other, not too far from each other, and they're filling this whole trellis and crawling everywhere, and I don't mind because I love butternut squash and it looks absolutely amazing. Look at these two. Everywhere. It is just full of butternut squash. I planted these a little bit later than I would like, so my hope is that frost will wait a little bit on us before it comes so that my butternut squash can mature and be ready for harvest before frost comes. So I have all these things with me right here. I have this giant bowl, this basket over here, and another basket, and a couple of these strainers because I ran out of baskets and bowls. I'm going to start with a cucumber over here. This cucumber looks like it's got hit with something. I couldn't see any bug damage on it, and I did spray it. It could be spider mites too. It's a little yellow bug crawling on it. So it's very possible this could be spider mites. I'm not sure. See some mold. Not exactly sure what this problem is. These are the baked alpha cucumbers, and they are absolutely delicious. I never have enough of these. I'm always stuffing them into my pickling jars. Well, it's a fermenting jar. We're constantly eating them, so I'm constantly having to refill the jar. And I just love to eat them fresh. A lot of us like to eat them fresh. And these are just perfect pickling size for me. Yesterday it rained, so I didn't come out here into the garden, and look at this. Even though these cucumbers look like this, they're still producing for me. I will try to plant some more cucumbers and hopefully I can get another harvest before the frost. If not, that's okay. I would have planted and tried. This right here is the Armenian cucumber. I accidentally pulled one of the plants out while I was weeding. There were grasses that were super tall and I wasn't able to come out here and weed as often as I would like to, and so they just kind of took over a little bit, so I had to tame them down and tell them who's boss. And with the Armenian cucumber, they have a little bit of a fuzz on them. You can see they have a little hairs, so you could just rub it off a little bit or rinse it. This is the size, or maybe a tiny bit bigger or even smaller, that I'd like to pickle the Armenian cucumbers. This size is also perfect for eating. When they get a little bigger than this, they get big seeds on the inside, and I personally don't like that. So I like to harvest them at a very young stage. And these right here are the yard-long noodle beans, and this is my first time planting them, and our season wasn't that great in the beginning. We had a really long and cold spring, and it was super rainy, so it took forever for these noodle beans to take off. Once we got our heat wave, they just shot off, and they filled this trellis and they started producing. And these, I like to harvest them when they are still young and tender. You can wait until they get thick and their beans fill up on the inside, but then you'd have to shell them, because I find that the outside becomes almost inedible because it becomes super rubbery and tough. These are great for stir frying. I haven't tried using them in stews yet, but I probably will as soon as I get to. Maybe this harvest will end up in a stew, who knows. And the wasps seem to love these noodle beans for some reason. They just come and sit on them. I have no idea what they're doing, but it's pretty creepy. And I came the other day to harvest some noodle beans, and there were wasps all over them. And with these noodle beans, when you're harvesting these noodle beans, you have to keep your eyes open, because the beans themselves look almost like the stems. You can see this stem right here. And it's kind of tricky because sometimes they get hung up in the trellis and you can't tell if these are beans or these are stems. So I have to look on both sides of the trellis and find the beans, and especially on the ground they tend to hide and it's hard to see them, so you really have to keep your eyes open. And they usually make 2 blossoms on each of these ends over here, and you end up with 2 noodle beans on it. There's this wasp or yellow jacket. They're just going back and forth on these beans. Maybe that's what pollinates them. I don't know. But he's not happy with me. I think I'll leave him alone and I'll come back in a little bit. So my tomatoes are in a really embarrassing state right now, but over here I show you the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I haven't been able to come up here and stake my tomatoes like I normally do. And I've been just watering them and letting them go, and I come up here and harvest every now and then whenever I see a few tomatoes that are ready. And now there are tons that are ready because we all got sick and I wasn't able to come here and harvest. But that kind of played out a little bit okay because I was able to process some other food. So I normally process my tomatoes in batches. I don't like to process them all at the same time because then I would have to stand at the stove for hours, and I just don't have the capacity. I have a toddler and I have 2 older kids and a toddler, and there's just a lot that goes on in the house. So I just like things to stay as simple as possible in this time of life that I'm in, and so I like to do things in small batches, and I process them in my slow cooker and I put them in the freeze dryer, and there are some things that I can. Right now I'm making pear butter in my freeze dryer from the pears that I thinned off the pear tree, and I let them ripen a little bit and then I turn them into pear butter. So right now I have some some canning jars that are running in the dishwasher, and as soon as I'm done over here, I'm going to go inside and can the pear butter. So that works out well together. So today I'm just going to show you the harvest and what we're going to end up with. And here, I'll take you and I'll show you all the tomatoes, and you can gawk and make fun of them all you want, but they're giving me lots of tomatoes. I mean, look, they look dead. They're bending over. They come out here and they just sprawl and they just keep producing, and it's a blessing and I'm thankful for it. Oh look, the marigold is finally about to bloom. Took you forever. And I've harvested so much already. I have some bags in the freezer. I've processed so many tomatoes already, and I freeze-dried pasta sauce. I made probably like 3 batches of pasta sauce and I freeze-dried it. I'm going to be making some more batches of pasta sauce and freeze-drying it, and I'm also going to be making just general tomato puree or tomato sauce and freeze-drying that as well. Just because I find that for now, again, just for this season of life, freeze-drying seems to be the airplane. Freeze-drying seems to be the easiest for me right now, and I just do a little bit of canning, not anything fussy or anything that takes forever. Today it's just going to be water bath canning for the pear butter, and I forgot, I'm going to be also harvesting some apples. The pears, I don't think they're ready. They look still a little small, but I mean, the pear tree is like loaded, and I didn't water them this year. That's another thing. They're probably just they're lacking in water. They need to be pruned. Anyways, I'm just yapping right now, but let's go ahead and harvest these tomatoes. So I like to harvest one side at a time. I go around this side and then I go on the other side. And I also like to harvest them before they're fully ripe, because then I can ripen them on my counter and not worry about splitting. When they ripen on the tomato, like yesterday we got tons of rain, you can see they split open, and then you have to you have to make sure to deal with them quickly, otherwise they're just going to start rotting. I haven't been separating my tomatoes when I process them. I just put all the tomatoes into my crock pot. I first take the skins off, and if you put them in the freezer, it's so easy to remove the skins. You just run them under some hot or cold water, whichever, and the skins slip off, and you just put them in the crock pot and you let them process. And I will do a separate video on that, on how I make my pasta sauce or my tomato puree. They're basically the same thing, it's just one has seasoning and one doesn't have any seasoning, and it comes out so thick and so good. So I'll make a separate video on that for you guys. Like this one right here, it has blossom end rot. I probably won't be able to get much out of this, but I'm just going to put it in here. And it's also, you can notice it's not super ripe, but if you harvest a tomato that's like this, it's going to ripen on your counter. Look at these beautiful strawberry tomatoes and all the colors. It is just absolutely amazing. And these are not fully ripe, but I like to harvest them at this stage. I find that if they're still green on this side, they take forever to ripen inside. So if you harvest them when they're like a pinkish color, that's, I think, the perfect time. And you let them ripen inside, and they would be great that way. So these are the tomatoes that I got from today's harvest. And every time I come into the garden, I fill this basket full, and that's every few days. Here's a better picture for you guys. And I just take that and either process it or put it in the freezer, or we just eat some of it fresh and the rest goes to the freezer. So right now it's drizzling. So let's go ahead and see what we can harvest from the peppers and the eggplants. First, I just want to show you this view. This is the view that I see from our house every day, and it's absolutely beautiful. You have here the pear tree and the apple tree. We've been harvesting off the apple tree, so that's why it looks a little scarce. But look at the pear tree. It is so full. And this view is just absolutely beautiful. I constantly cut blooms off these zinnias, and they are just prolific in producing, and they are so beautiful. I love their color and the texture in the garden, and it's just amazing. I'm so happy I planted them. And I'm not sure what variety of pears these are. They were here when we bought the house, but they were a tiny tree, like probably this big, and they kept being eaten by the deer, so we protected them. And I started pruning them and fertilizing them, and now they're gigantic. And look at all the water sprouts, because I pruned a little bit heavy on this spring because it was like that. And so now I'm just gonna give it a little light summer pruning after we harvest the fruits off of it. Peppers are producing a little bit. It's not like tons, and I like to harvest them when they're still kind of tender. I don't like them to have really thick skin, which makes them produce even more. There we go. I should have snips with me really, but I don't. That's okay. There. I think I'm going to leave these a little bit. These are pimento peppers. I've never planted these before, so I have no idea what they taste like or what they're supposed to look like. I don't know if they're supposed to be red, but I can harvest them now if I want to, because you can really harvest pepper at any point of time. And these are Sonado peppers, and I believe these are hot peppers. And these peppers look like little Lunchables, so I'm just going to harvest a few. It's really going down. The rain is coming. And I've been harvesting off of these, what are they called? I forgot its name. Banana peppers so much. And they are just absolutely amazing. I love them. They're not super spicy. Whoops. Guess we're eating that one. I'm gonna try one and see. I'll try a couple. This one and that one. Look at the borage. Borage. I never know how to say it. These eggplants have been producing so much for me, and they are super healthy. Look at them. Remember when I planted these, how they were so little? They grew super fast, and they've been producing a ton, and I love them. I think I'm going to leave this one to grow so that I can make a baba ganoush with it, because that's just something we love. I mean, look at this. I'm constantly harvesting off of these eggplants. Look at this. They're constantly making, and I love it. This is so amazing. Look. And you can harvest eggplants at any point. I like to harvest them at this stage or just a little bit bigger because I like to use them for stuffing. If I were to use them for pickling, I would harvest them at a younger stage. And I like to have snips with me because I don't like to damage the plant. And they also have thorns, but I totally forgot to get snips with me. So that's kind of what I do. There. This type right here, it's an Asian type. I forgot its name. I like this to grow bigger than this. I let it grow to maybe about like this tall from here to here, and then I can use it in stuffing, and you can use it also in stir frying and pickling and fermenting, whatever you want. I think I could get this one too. Oh, and look at the tomatillos. And I have tons of fennel in there that I need to freeze dry because I love fennel. But I guess I'm not going to be able to do that today because it's just raining and raining. Let's see, come on, can I do this without breaking the plant? Ow, ow, ow. Okay. Ow. Okay. I guess that's as many eggplants I'm going to be getting today, but I just save them in my fridge until I can make a meal out of them. And sometimes the tomatillos fall on the ground because of the excess watering or because of the rain, and they are in the same bed as the eggplants and peppers. Both eggplants and peppers like a lot of water, so I guess I'm sacrificing my tomatillos for that because the tomatillos seem to drop their fruits when they receive a lot of water. This is my first time planting tomatillos, but that has been my experience so far. So I just take the fruits off the ground, and if they're still good, I use them. If not, I toss them. And look at the fennel. It's covered with the tomatillos, and it's still doing absolutely amazing. Look at this. I love the texture of fennel. This is just a beautiful wilderness right here. And look at all this kale that needs to be harvested. Let me show you the zucchini that I planted a few videos ago are doing okay. I think they're not receiving a lot of sunlight because the zinnias are blocking them. So I guess I won't be getting tons of zucchinis this year. That's alright. Look at them. So beautiful. Oh my goodness. This makes my heart so happy. Look at this. And these are the sweet potatoes. They are doing amazing. I'm gonna have to cover them, of course, because we're gonna be receiving frost anytime soon. Well, and by anytime soon I mean next month in September, and these wouldn't have had the chance to develop their tubers large enough, so I will have to cover them all, especially also and the potatoes as well and all that stuff over here, so that I can just continue to get a harvest from them. I won't cover the tomatoes. I've already gotten tons of harvest from them, and again, I will not be harvesting the herbs today. And for whatever reason, the potatoes over here didn't come up. When I planted these potatoes in this bed over here, I kind of had a suspicion that some of them might come up and some of them might not, because when I was cutting them, very few of them had good sprouts on them, because I just took the potatoes that were in my basement. And that's why you want to get seed potatoes, because the potatoes that you buy from the store might have growth inhibitors on them, so it prevents them from developing sprouts. Now, oftentimes I just get sprouts on my potatoes fine, but this time I didn't for whatever reason. So these potatoes are not growing, so I guess even if they want to grow, I'm just going to plant something over here. Can you cover the camera for me, Elizabeth? Thank you. I do want to see you though. So even if they are going to grow, the season is anyways about to end. My daughter's holding an umbrella over the camera for me. So I don't think I'm going to be getting any potatoes from them. So I'll just plant a cold hardy plant over here, or maybe like Swiss chard or something like that, and or cucumbers, even though it's not cold hardy, but I might be able to get something out of the cucumbers right now before it's too late. So maybe tomorrow, if it's not raining, I'll come here and I'll plant. And even if it's raining like this, that's fine. I like this kind of rain. It's not a big deal. Alright, so I got some peppers, lots of tomatoes, and some cucumbers, and I will still harvest the noodle beans, and then I'm going to head inside because it is continuing to rain and I don't want my camera to get damaged.
Actually,
and
Serenity is awake and she's crying.
Oh, okay. And so I just want to thank you so much, guys, for watching, and I'll see you again next time.